hopefully never. So I'd like to ask that we review this and start over using best practices, since none of them have been met at this point, and it's taken 4 years to implement.
Thank you. We do have a second comment, Diane Mihalski.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, very good. I think I filed the complaint that started this process, and I want to thank you. It's very, very that citizens who appear before various adjudicative bodies feel like the process is fair, and that they'll be heard. My complaint involves a conflict of interest, and it's very important that citizens know that their arguments will be considered, because win or lose, the most important thing is for citizens to know the process was fair. And so thank you very much for going forward with this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And this was only one agenda item, so we took all comments together, but the first vote does not include the Ethics Commission, and will be a voice vote, and then we will move to a second vote on the Ethics Commission. So this will be just on boards and commissions that do not include the Ethics Commission, as the Ethics Commission requires a roll call vote. All those in favor of approving the other boards and commissions in today's packet, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Fatima, would you like to explain what's happening right now, please? To any newcomers we have?
Yes, so we don't really understand their agenda. They're going like back and forth. They were on like 21, and then they went to like 46 and 48. They passed the SROs 7-1. And then they were back at 2 and 3. So we're kind of worried. Like we don't know like what's going to happen. But anyways, we're here together, and we want to welcome everyone who just came. And if you have any questions, yeah, Patricia, like you said, you please ask them here. And if you want to receive text messages for updates, we're trying really hard to keep up with it since it's not going in order. You can message me on the chat, on the Zoom chat, just private message me your name and your phone number, and I can add you to receive those text alerts. Yeah.
Yeah, so our plan was to try to gift you back some time and not let you make you sit at your desks or your chairs or your couches watching everything, but that's okay. It's all good. We're glad that you're here, and we're in very good company. Not sure if they're just going to decide to pop up on 71 and 72 in the next like 3 minutes, but we're ready. We're ready. Does anyone have any questions, any comments about what we've heard thus far?
Hey, Zoraida, this is Joe. I think, can you hear me okay? I forget that I don't have my headphones on.
Yeah.
I think something that I recognize is like, one, they are blowing through the agenda items that they are hitting, even if it's not in order. They're really quick. And as they're going through them, I've already heard, right, it was more money and contracts for SROs, which is more money for police. It was like more money for block watches, which is all about neighborhoods having money to like have copies with the cops and like basketball games with cops. Which is more like about the image rather than about the systemic problems. And so there's been a lot of money already passed for policing.
Thank you, Joe. I think that there's like coded language when people don't really understand SROs are actually cops and the monies are going to cops. So thank you for clarifying that for us. Oh, Joe. Joe's always in the know.
And just to make sure, hey everyone, this is Patricia, that everyone's super clear, that vote, everyone voted for it to get the SROs on campus except for Carlos, and that includes Yasemin Ansari, who's the new elect for D7. And so knowing that Black and brown kids are guided into the school to prison pipeline by SROs, it's really disappointing and unacceptable that she voted that way representing D7.
Thank you, Patricia. So if we don't have any more questions, I guess we could go back to the live stream. Fatima, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's go back to the live stream.
And for the folks on Facebook, we have someone monitoring your chat. So if you have comments, please put them in the chat and we will definitely get you some answers the best that we can.
All right. That concludes the ordinances resolution portion of our agenda. We do have a large number of folks here to participate in the planning and zoning items. We'll do a check with the council on timing. Would people like to see a break?
Yes.
All right. So as we often do with these lengthy meetings, we will take a 20-minute break and convene at approximately 4:22 for the planning and zoning add-on items and citizen requests to speak. We are on a 20-minute break now. Thank you.
So when they come back from break, planning and zoning is where items 71 and 72 belong. But it starts with item number 61. So there's about 10 items in front of it.
Hannah's comment. I'm sorry. That just made me giggle. Oh, Lord. All right, everyone. Well, they're taking a 20-minute break, and we know that our section is coming up next. We decided just to get our program started now. So for folks that just got into space, I just wanted to thank you again. And if you can make sure that you have your name and pronoun in your name on Zoom, that would be really great. And I'm going to ask Miss Roslyn if you could give us like another version of the transition into MassLib's history and description, because we have some new folks that just jumped on. So if you could indulge us with another version.
Well, thank you so much, Zoraida, for passing it forward. Imagine them needing a break. And so we're going to collectively move forward and talk about our, just a brief, short history of MassLib. MassLib is a grassroots organization, and officially the kickoff work was in March 2019 to free Black folk in South Phoenix. Our early forums, Speak Freedom and Let's Talk, were an invitation to community members to come together in principled struggle and build a power to transform the system. And a group of volunteers, excited volunteers, emerged, and we developed the values, and a movement henceforth was created. We organize in South Phoenix because we follow the lead of directly impacted people and those who are Black and formerly incarcerated, because the people closest to the problem is closest to the solution and furthest from the resources. And so South Phoenix is noted to be the home of the $1 Million Blocks, and is the most surveilled, the most incarcerated and paroled communities in Arizona, and arguably in the country. Arizona is listed the 5th highest incarcerator in the nation, and we just heard that they're giving more money to surveil through SROs. And so we want to talk a little bit about our values. And these are the lenses that we live through, we work through, we even play through these values. And I'm going to ask that someone can read voluntarily the value if you are willing to read the value when it's. Can you?
I can help you out. I can help you by just asking folks. I'm going to ask maybe Tina, would you like to read the first one for us?
Can you enlarge it a little bit? I'm thinking.
Maybe Tina stepped away. How about, I see Matt moving around, so you're still there.
Yeah, I can read the first value. The first value is love and rigor.
Absolutely. And we just want to say about love and rigor that there are things that may happen, there are things that may transpire, challenges that we may be faced with. We will hold the ground of love. Rigor means we will work through it, not walk away, but we will push to find resolve collectively.
Yeah, they look great, Anisha. Thank you. How about, let's see, Zara, are you available to read number 2?
Yeah, I can read number 2. So number 2 is We Center Black Liberation.
That's an exciting one. And what we say about that is, despite the fact brown and poor people get caught up in the system, it was designed to target and Black people. And we believe by liberating Black people, everybody get free.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Let's see, who do we have on our line still? How about Vanessa, would you mind reading number 3? Or Anisha?
Hi, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks, Vanessa.
Okay, I can't see the very small print because I don't have my glasses on, but we're on number 3. The system isn't broken. It was designed this way, but it's great value.
Thank you.
And we see that on a continuum, that when we say it's not broken, it may attempt to break us, but we see that the offense is created, it's built in these harms. And so the system isn't broken, it's designed to operate, to harm, to oppress, but here we are kicking and screaming against it all and doing the work.
Thank you. Ronnie, could you mind doing number 4?
All of us or none.
And that's the beauty of why we do this work. It's all of us or none of us. And I pause again and say thank you that we are here together to lift up this very value, that if all of us and until all of us can be liberated, we leave no one behind. We continue to press. We continue to do this work.
Thank you, Ronnie. Ria, would you mind doing number 5?
Of course, justice reinvestment.
Ooh-wee, the money that we see going into what was just voted in, the money that goes into to bring us harm could be invested in education and housing and the very things we're in need of, the things that enhance our living is where the money should go.
I'm not sure if Lola is available. If Lola, if you're available, would you mind doing number 6? She might have stepped away.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just was struggling to get all my mutes off. On. Yeah, number 6 is there is a difference between crime and harm. Crime is defined by people with power, often to preserve that power. It is no connection to what actually harms the community or has anything to do with what could restore us. I just wanted to add that little piece.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Lola. Who do we have to read the 7th principle?
I think it's it's appropriate for Joe Larios to read number 7.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Number 7 is we put people before property. We prioritize humanity before property, before profit, and we work to break free of the ways that we can get stuck in these profit-driven dialogues about our future, about our land, and about how, things that we need in order to thrive as a community.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Joe. Who will read our 8th value?
Fatima, are you available to read number 8?
Yeah, I can read it really quickly. Just zooming in here. Number 8 is that we focus on healing and personal transformation.
Thank you so much, Fatima. We seek to dismantle the current system of punishment. And we just work hard to lift these values up. And who will read the 9th value?
Maybe Patricia?
Oh, Patricia's on a break, my bad.
Oh, okay. Then I can do it. We center the leadership of directly impacted people.
And following that up with the people that are closest to the problem are absolutely closest to the solution. And we name that and live through that quite often. Who will read the 10th value?
I think Ms. Roslyn should be the 10th value.
Well, the 10th value is putting in people in cages is never, 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 ever the answer. And so this value causes us to dream. And thank you so much for walking through our values with us today.
So Fatima, if you wouldn't mind going over and doing an overview of People Over Property initiative that we call POPI, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm currently sending everyone a message to come join the program. If we could have maybe Matt do it, since he's also in POPI.
Yeah, thank you, Fatima. Thank you for, we should all thank Fatima for all of her hard work, making sure folks are informed throughout the day. I know Ryan was saying how much he liked getting the texts, and thank you. So yeah, People Over Property Initiative is a coalition of local organizations, community organizers, village planning committee members, and residents of South Phoenix, and those who love the South Phoenix community. POPI began because we recognize that while we value people and community over property and profit, the system we face to approach land and development use does not. So, that goes in alignment with our values, that the system isn't broken, it is designed exactly as it is supposed to operate. So as we continue to face systemic racism in development today, we are guided by the following values in POPI. We center those most directly impacted by health disparity. The legacy of racism has resulted in state-sanctioned early death of South Phoenix residents through food apartheid, mass incarceration and criminalization, and environmental racism. We center Black liberation and make visible the way racism operates in the development process. In solidarity, we hold a commitment to name anti-Black violence and move towards dismantling the beliefs behind it, whether they're racial, economic, or gender-based. We center healing and transformation in our recommendations, requests, considerations, and expectations for future developments. Right now, we're going to, are we going to watch the video right now? Or are we going to?
Anisha, do you think are you able to upload the video or to play the video now? Just a little tech transition. Oh, wow, I
Anisha?
see a lot.
Oh.
Who was going to speak?
Oh, I was gonna say if Anisha needs help, I can put the video on.
Okay, Anisha, if you're having any issues, please let us know, and Ria is happy to jump in really quickly. Ria, if you could queue up Resetting in the City, that would be awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. In the meantime, Ryan said, I'm all about this people over property. Ronnie said, what a concept, right? Thank you, Ria.
Mass Liberation Arizona presents Resegregation in the City. In a 2018 segment on KJZZ discussing how rare it is to be an Arizona native, 60% of residents in 2017 were reported to have been born out of state according to the American Community Survey. This makes Arizona a top 5 commuter state, following Nevada, Florida, and Washington, D.C. Where are most people moving from? According to the U.S. Census, California. And while this pattern of migration to the Phoenix metropolitan area makes sense when you consider that the Valley has long been considered one of the most affordable places to live in the West, a steadily rising gap between income and housing rates has set off alarms about what affordability really means for its residents. Cheap housing has disappeared, replaced by high-priced rentals that don't seem to fit into the landscape. In a 2019 article from the Arizona Republic on the looming affordable housing crisis, the median home price in Phoenix was reported to have grown by 44% since 2013, while the median household income only increased by 12%. And the results of this disparity in income and housing rates? Maricopa County Justice Courts saw more than 25,000 eviction orders in 2017 alone, the 5th highest total in county history, and a 12% increase from 2016. Nowhere was the increase worse than in the Country Meadows Justice Precinct, which spreads across high-poverty chunks of Glendale and West Phoenix. When rents reach the tipping point, when old industrial buildings flip or are raised for flimsy new ones made of glass and chipboard, when the once affordable housing is renovated into high-end duplexes, when poor residents have to leave, the gentrification narrative hits its limit. Gentrification has no room for the question, where did the displaced go? Resegregation tells a more complete story by addressing race and answering where the evicted, the foreclosed, the unwelcomed, where the displaced go. As the inner city gentrifies, poor black and brown people are relegated to the inner and outer suburbs, like Levine, Buckeye, and Maricopa. They face premature death through homelessness, health disparities, and police violence. And they are caged in prisons, jails, and detention centers. Each disparity falls on racial lines, alluding to the structural racism that has driven land use and development since the founding of Phoenix.
Thank you, thank you. Have y'all seen that video before? Isn't it dope? Isn't it so cute? I love it. I love when we get a chance to show that video. Also, incredibly informative. There is a much larger picture that we have to look at when we're thinking about land use and development, because this is one of those things that is very rubber stampy within the city. You know, requests come in, the council just says yes, and then, you know, generations of directly impacted folks are, you know, negatively impacted for years and years. So it's important that we ask these questions of where do the displaced go. And one question I have for all of y'all, feel free to answer in the chat, and or if you want to unmute yourself, who do we see this happening to here in our city or anywhere? Black and indigenous people of color, absolutely, absolutely. We saw it in Central City and downtown, most definitely. And we see these patterns in certain areas too. Central City and downtown has seen a lot of well, segregation one, but also displacement over and over again. I think we immediately think of places like Roosevelt Row, the arts district in downtown, and how it's very different than it was, say, 20 years ago. But when we think of what that neighborhood was like 30 years ago, it was, you know, Black and brown people used to live there, and they were displaced before the future displacement, and more people will continue to be displaced. Let me just jump back in here. Right. Now, one thing we definitely want to talk about, and I can't see the chat anymore, so if anybody wants to chime in, feel free to unmute. We want to talk about South Phoenix, especially since we're talking about the community benefit agreement in South Phoenix and the work of POPI that has been centered on the South Side. Now, South Phoenix has a long history of displacement, of segregation and resegregation. As most of us know, that there was a point in time where Black and brown residents and other residents of color could not live north of Van Buren. So that's why we know historical neighborhoods, Black historical neighborhoods like Edison Eastlake, and then the barrios in the South Phoenix Central City area. So what did this bring? So when we look at the way that the city has developed South Phoenix, we notice that there's a lot of industrial development that's relegated to areas like South Phoenix. One of the reasons this is done is to ensure the comfort of white communities. So if you ever have been to the South Side, or you are from the South Side, you know, like 19th Ave and Broadway has a distinct chemical smell, to where if you're driving, you're gonna roll your windows up because it smells like gasoline or some type of very harsh chemical. We see all these big industrial plants on the South Side, and what are they doing? They're making things that are going to build other parts of the city where we are not allowed to be. It is why Scottsdale is so swanky. It's why places like Gilbert, were able to develop, because we have essentially bled when we look at life expectancy of South Phoenix residents. We also know that infant mortality is way higher. The rates of infant deaths are 3 to 4 times higher for Black and Indigenous babies than their white counterparts. The air quality. We saw them talk about electric cars earlier. But when we have to look at the larger picture of how cities are developed, because it's not just a building goes up and it doesn't affect anybody because it was an empty lot, there are ripple effects, and that's why we center those most directly impacted. Access to food apartheid. We make sure that we say food apartheid and not, food deserts or food insecure, because this is calculated. The city has the ability to ensure that we have options for healthy, accessible, culturally appropriate food. But many neighborhoods on the South Side, their closest grocery store is a Family Dollar or a convenience store. Within these areas, the people are further segregated, even with redlining. In South Phoenix, there are a number of neighborhoods where if brown folks are allowed to buy homes there, their deed may say it cannot be sold or resold to a Black person. These deeds still exist, they're not enforced, but we see that within the segregated parts of Phoenix, being South Phoenix, they are further segregated when you get within them, also with schools. Also, one of the biggest things is the low property valuations, which just heightens that displacement. Because when your properties are valued, and we see that when Black residents, Black homeowners get appraisals, they are appraised at lower valuations than that of white people that own homes. Many will hide family photos to ensure that they get an adequate appraisal. Now, what happens when the city decides that your property is valuable? And that's when we get into resegregation, because segregation is the overt, you cannot live here, we do not want you here, we're gonna place you in a specific part of town. And then when we now deem that part of town as valuable, when we see medium to large size development, light rail, airport, things like that, or airport expansion, I should say, what happens to the folks in those neighborhoods? So the city is going to invest in certain things. And we saw it today when they were talking about budgets. You know, we saw money go to SROs. We saw money go to block watches. We heard from community members saying that their basketball programs did not get funded through the block grants. So this is a targeted, they have the tools, they have the ability, but somehow it's always like, oh, well, I don't know, are we able to do this? Do we have to ask for permission, or who do we talk to about that? And it's like, we talk to you about that, and then you do it. Yes, it was a basketball program for Black femmes on the South Side. Sorry, my screen went crazy and I lost where I was. Okay,
Matt,
so
I'm just gonna give you the heads up. They are gonna move the agenda item out of order a little bit. And so giving you the flag that we should try and transition a little faster.
Yeah, okay,
to make
cool.
sure that we get ready for it. But thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. So things that we saw was the increased investment into incarceration, higher incarceration rates in South Phoenix, and we've already mentioned the $1 million blocks. This is what the city decides to invest in. They want to invest in pushing people out, disappearing people, whether that's into prisons, whether that's further west into rural areas. When the airport expanded, we saw a lot of Southsiders move further south or further out west. And we still see that with people moving out to places like Buckeye or Goodyear when they're priced out. We also see a disruption to local mutual aid groups that work with directly impacted residents. We see a disruption, an active organizing from the city against groups that work with directly impacted people, which is why this community benefits agreement is so important. Now, one thing that we will touch on as well is the coded racism, the confusing jargon that is used at these meetings, because not only are they very inaccessible to residents, but what they're talking about, the language that they're using is, it sounds like gibberish to most people. And a lot of it is just another way of hiding things that we heard about, segregation. NIMBYs, the not in my backyard, NIMBYs are essentially just segregationists. They want to block off areas and say only the type of people that I want to live here can live here. And we saw that in a big way in this case. So one thing I want to do is we want to transition over to Zoraida, right? Going over to you.
Do I have share screen? Thank you, Matt. Do we have share screen capabilities? Am I a co-host?
Hey.
Can someone please make me a co-host? Patricia or Anisha, will one of you please make me a co-host? Oh, thank you. Sorry, just getting my tech together, y'all. This just takes a second. Sorry, everyone.
In the meantime, we're going to do an activity soon. So if everyone can just get paper and pencils, pens, colors ready for whenever we do that activity, just bring it with you, put it next to you if you can.
Okay, I think it's working now. Can y'all see my iPad screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now, and again, I understand that we might be getting close to our items, so this might get interrupted. But what we're going to do now, oh my gosh, how embarrassing, y'all can see all my text messages. Is that I'm gonna teach y'all how to do graphic recording like I do for Mass Lib sometimes. And honestly, this is not art, it's just a matter of learning how circles and straight lines can turn into images. And it's really easier than you think. So if you have your paper and your pencil together, I'm using an iPad so you can see it, but I would normally be doing this with just regular old markers and white paper. So I'm gonna start with, if you could just follow along with me and indulge me, I'm gonna use a different color so it's more visible. But just take your marker or whatever you're using and just make a series of circles. And they don't have to be perfect. But if you are a perfectionist, try to make them as perfect as you like. You can even do circles inside of circles. Circles inside of circles, inside of circles. So just keep making little circles, big circles, however they feel good. And then once we get to the end of our sheet, let's start doing a series of straight lines. We could do shorter ones, we could do longer ones, we can do thick ones, we could do thin ones. Just get your hand used to doing lines. Different ways. We can even put lines on top of lines, just however it feels comfortable for you. And then right about here, I'm just going to ask us to do vertical, horizontal lines. We could do long ones. We can do short ones. We can do more on this next row, long ones, long ones. And then the next thing is like squiggly lines, right? So squiggly lines are kind of important when you're doing illustrations. So you can make squiggles like this. You can do big ones. You can do more concise, tight ones. And then if you think about horizontal lines, they actually come in handy too. So just draw some horizontal lines going both directions. You can do like a hatch mark because they're just diagonal lines making a different pattern, but they're still diagonal. And then we can do a zigzag. The zigzags come in handy too. And nothing is perfect, right? Nothing has to be perfect. It's just getting your hand feel together. Does everyone feel comfortable making circles, straight lines, crooked lines? I'd like to see thumbs up and hearts or something just because I'm a super duper needy facilitator. Okay, so I'm gonna erase all this, so please forgive me while I back tap and get all this out of here. In the meantime, if you want to keep making circles and lines just to get your hands loose, you know how Lola says get the marbles out of your mouth? Well, now we're just getting the marbles out of our wrists and our fingers. So if you want to keep on making circles and lines, you can, but I'm going to show you how to turn these into illustrations now. So first of all, when you write down a word on a piece of paper, it also becomes an image. So writing words is just a matter of writing a series of straight lines, right? So if I write the word hello, that's just a bunch of straight lines in one circle. And that's now an illustration. It means something. If I put an exclamation mark, now there's emotion behind it. If I put a question mark, it gives it a whole completely different meaning. And I could really mess you up by putting an exclamation mark and a question mark. What the? So you can turn this into an image now by putting a series of straight lines around it. And now it's highlighted. But if you want to be really fancy, you can turn something as simple as this into, with a bunch of circles, now it's a hanging sign. See how simple? I can do that again. If you put a circle and a half circle, now it's a hanging sign. You could also do the same thing, and with a circle and two straight lines, you can turn this into a flag. You can use a series of straight lines and zigzags in the corners and make it like a taped up notice on a door or a wall or a poster. It's pretty simple. If you want to be super fancy, you can turn this into a flowing banner. Now watch this, and I'm going to do the square with you again. So if you make a rectangle around the word and then follow my lines, I'm just doing a series of straight lines. Sorry about that. Series of straight lines. Okay, and then attach these two corners together and shade this in. And now we have a banner. You want to be really fancy, do another series of straight lines and make a V. And now you got a super flowy banner. So honestly, illustration is honestly just a bunch of straight lines. I'm going to give you some more examples. Now, I am notorious in my personal life for running late. So if I was trying to write an image of running late, follow me. This is just a circle with a half circle, a dot, a straight line, and two diagonal lines indicating the time of the hands. And then watch how easy this is. Now I'm going to animate this and turn it into a moving object. So if I do a straight line and a foot, and another straight line and a foot, and an arm, and then really quick lines. Now I'm running late. Do you see that? And it's just a matter of circles and lines. We can do people, which is another way to like write out your emotions and the feelings that you're getting. So by doing that, I use a circle and a line and a series of straight lines and make straight feet. And that's an arm. And now we have a person. If you want to try to make it specifically a femme person, then make a triangle that kind of indicates a dress or a tunic or whatever, in a series of straight lines. And you can move the positioning of the arms to show a different emotion. We could even do an attitude. And instead of doing a straight line, if we angle this foot up and put motion lines, now this person is impatient and tapping their foot because they're irritated. We can do, another thing folks ask about is block lettering. So I have been doing this for a little bit, so I can easily just make a block letter, no problem. And it's just literally a series of straight and diagonal lines. But I can show you how to do this very simply. So if you're trying to learn how to do these, if you write a letter, so let's just pick one that's a little hard. Let's pick a Z for very selfish reasons. You pick a Z and just draw out a Z on your paper, and then you outline it. Very simply. Then you can take your eraser and you, oops, that's too big of an eraser. Take your eraser and just take out the middle letter. That's a way for you to practice doing block letters. Pretty simply. And then after a while, it just becomes second nature.
Zoraida, it looks
Are we
into the
ready?
agenda item now.
All right. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Ria, and thank y'all for indulging me. We can use these tools in a bit while you're watching this. You can probably maybe start practicing doing some illustrations about how you're feeling while you're watching this.
Ansari?
Yes.
DeCiccio?
No.
Guardado?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego? Yes. Passes 6-2. We next move to items 71 and 72, which concern the southwest corner of 40th Street and Southern Avenue. They are companion cases, and we will hear them together. We will begin with a staff report. We will then have a public hearing. We will have a 10-minute presentation, 10-minute presentations by both the applicant and the appellant, and then we'll have 2-minute public comment from members of the public who are
We are going to add some terms of coded language and coded racism that we're likely to hear in the chat. And so please, take a look at it while we listen in.
Item 71 is a general plan amendment, and 72 is a related zoning case. The subject site surrounds the southwest corner of 40th Street and Southern Avenue down in the South Mountain Village area, shown in red on the slide. Item 71 is that general plan amendment. You see the slide showing you the outline of the parcel area in black. The light green color is our mixed-use agricultural designation. You see the gray Commerce Park designation to the north, and then red commercial, and then more traditional lot residential, 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre to the east of the subject site. The proposed designation change here is residential 10 to 15 slash mixed-use ag designation with that brown crosshatch. The next slide shows the existing zoning for the property. The C2 zoning on it is for the northern portion of the property at 7.25 acres. And then the southern 10 acres is S1, which is large lot residential. You see that there's a mix of zoning around it, from mixed-use ag to the east, low-density residential on 1 acre plus lots to the south, that more traditional suburban residential, 3.5 to 5 dwelling units an acre to the east, then some industrial commerce park also to the east, and then commercial up to the north. This next slide shows the proposed site plan for the applicant's proposed multifamily rental project. The yellow line does denote one-story limitations on there, so that you can see where the area is 1 story in height pursuant to the PUD standards. 140 feet from that property line on the south, they're required to keep a 1 story, 20 feet maximum building height, and then also 60 feet along 40th Street and along Southern Avenue to also be 60 feet. I would note the project has a minimum requirement of 20% open space, and the landscape setbacks are significant as well around the entire property that we'll talk about pursuant to a memo here in just a minute. The next slide shows the elevations for the project. These are conceptual elevations. The 1-story product is 20 feet in height, and the 2-story is 30 feet in height. And also noting that the yellow boundary, as we just talked about, had areas that are 1-story limits around the perimeter of the property. In this case, the South Mountain Village Planning Committee did vote to recommend denial of the general plan amendment by an 11 to 8 vote. The Planning Commission recommended approval by a 6 to 2 vote. Regarding the zoning case, the South Mountain Village Planning Committee did recommend denial by a 12 to 7 vote, and the Planning Commission voted approval by a 6 to 2 vote. The Planning Commission decision was appealed to the council here to force a public hearing, and also signatures were submitted to require a 3/4 vote of the council to approve any change of zoning. Earlier today, a memo came out at the direction of the Vice Mayor to address some of the issues that he had heard from neighbors, and also to put forth a compromise between the two parties regarding the density. And so that memo outlines a reduction in the density from 193 to 166 units, building height limit for the administrative offices of 20 feet, an increase in the width of landscape setbacks around the project so that they are increasing a minimum of 5 feet to some of them up to 15 feet of difference in terms of the setback increase compared to what was originally proposed. Requirement for utilization of shade trees, a minimum distance for the dog parks and dog washing areas to be a minimum of 200 feet from the south and east property line, and any recycling and dumpster facilities to be 150 feet away from those property lines to pull those away from the neighbors that are most concerned about the proposal. There's additional standards for parking lot lighting, for shielding, as well as updating of the open fencing concept, and then installing a gate along a portion of the property that has a trail that goes into the south that is accessed by other users, and then some disclosure requirement for area radio transmission towers that are in the area. Staff does recommend approval per the Planning Commission recommendation, adoption of the related ordinance, and motion, or related resolution, I should say, and then the zoning case would be approval per the memo from earlier today and adoption of the related ordinance. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I will turn to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone who's worked on this case. We had many meetings with the South Village leaders, neighborhoods, organizations, applicants, and so on. We spend many hours with you all trying to find the common ground. We respect the plans that exist for this area. I want to make sure that that's clear. We also understand that we must increase the city's housing stock while continuing to grow the services that we provide. I look forward to hearing from folks.
Had this case now going on, and as the Vice Mayor mentioned, there have been a significant number of meetings, not only with the village, the neighbors, the neighborhood groups, and all of the various stakeholders throughout this now over a year-long process. I have to say I'm listening to the direction this case is going in, and obviously we're going to be presenting the case as it was filed and as it was amended and as we presented to the Planning Commission, although I understand from Mr. Stevenson's comments that this may be a less dense product. With the Mayor's permission and the Vice Mayor's permission, we're going to present what was originally presented to the Planning Commission last, so we have an understanding of what we believe is an appropriate land use and why we believe this is an appropriate land use, and frankly why staff has written a staff report in support of that land use. So with that, we can go to the first slide. To give an overview of the site, this is a 17-acre site. As we look at 40th Street and Southern, it's two arterial roadways, and it is surrounded by a plethora of different uses, from single-family to industrial to commercial to multifamily and to a large lot single-family to our south. So as we look at this piece, we see that there are significant numbers of uses that are all converging at this intersection. It is why this site, and Mayor, I know you're aware of it from your representation of the district.
Yes, and since you said Mayor, our staff has asked me to say I open the public hearing, so please continue.
Perfect. Well, I will continue then, Mayor. You know this area has been challenging given the transitional uses and the different uses, all of which converge in this intersection. As you can see, to the north is industrial and planned industrial. To the south is large lot. To our east is single-family residential and medium density. And then as we look to the north and northeast, you see a variety of different uses, including multifamily and commercial, as well as industrial. Next slide, please. This gives a different viewpoint, but it also shows the various zoning districts that we're dealing with and why this can be such a challenging parcel. Although it was zoned C2 some years ago, and there was the development of a Walgreens at the hard corner of 40th Street and Southern, the remainder of the property, despite having a commercial designation on a large part of it, never developed. And that is 24 years of growth while this parcel has not developed. And that's for a variety of different reasons. And there have also been cases that have been denied, in fact, numerous cases that have either been withdrawn or denied or did not have support. But we can see from this exhibit that we are surrounded by a variety of different land use areas and at an intersection with roughly 30,000 cars per day. Next slide. And it's also helpful to get a visual of the intersection. At the hard corner, I'd already mentioned the southwest corner has the Walgreens that we sit behind, and then we have a multifamily building on the northeast corner, where we have on the northwest and on the southeast 2 gas stations. Next slide, please. Any one of those will do. Okay, in terms of the appropriate land use, this is an area where you can see from the red, those are all commercial land uses. And I think this quote is significant in terms of staff recognize that this is a transitional area. It's transitioning from single-family residential to the south to commercial uses to the north, and that the development that we have proposed, because it is that middle ground, is appropriate located at this intersection. Next slide, please. I also think it's appropriate to look at the history. I mentioned that despite the fact that this was zoned in 1997 and has been vacant in the back for 24 years, And this is despite the fact that we have proximity to the airport, major employment areas, and I-10. Next slide. In terms of the zoning history, this area has been zoned C2 and S1, and there were other cases in the area that were withdrawn over the years because of neighborhood pushback, which is just an indication of how difficult it's been to find that sweet spot of what should exist on this property while abiding by all of the overriding land uses. Next slide, please. Slight background on the MUA. This is within the MUA area, but is not zoned MUA, and it's one of 773 acres that was designated as MUA some time ago, back in 1996, approximately the same time that the Walgreens was developed on this site. And you can also see from this exhibit that we are at the far end of that area, not in the middle of any MUA area. Next slide. This was our original site plan. And we can talk more about the site plan as we look at our original site plan had 12 units per acre. It had 205 units. I say original, frankly, we had other versions that had more units that were not included because we had some meetings with neighbors prior to filing this and members of the village, and actually reduced the unit count before filing the case. So as you look at this, you see that there was parking along 40th and there was less open space. But as we look at the next slide, please, you can see the transition to more centralized open space, a larger buffer on the south, fewer units overall, and more proximity between the units, as well as a lower degree of the two-story units and further separation between all of our transitional areas on our boundaries. Importantly, we also took all of the parking away from 40th Street and replaced it with landscaping so that from the perimeter it had a very green look and feel, while also incorporating many of the mixed-use agricultural requirements. Next slide. Just to give a sense of where we stand, I think this is a significant indication of our density. This is the density as it's proposed today at 193 units. We are one of the lowest single-family rental densities in Phoenix. We are below the average, and given the size of the site, we are at 11.2 units per acre, which is extraordinarily low, even before taking any other additional reductions. Next slide. In terms of the general plan, the staff has done an excellent job, but this just pulls out some of the reasons that they have supported our general plan amendment. Both prosperity and environment, as well as the health elements, have been met. Next slide. Housing Phoenix, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, the City Housing Phoenix plan does indicate a need for additional housing within the City of Phoenix, and this was adopted in 2020, but it does talk about 50,000 homes being necessitated by 2030, and this is obviously in accordance with that plan. Next slide. We also have support. Although there's been a very vocal opposition to this case, it has come primarily from the residents to the south and the larger lot homes. We have done our best to work with that opposition while at the same time encouraging the support in the community. Which is why we are able to show you this map that shows support surrounding our property. Next slide. I should also point out that that support comes from both businesses and residences in the area. And I'm gonna conclude with this, Mayor, because there is a lot to talk about in terms of the benefits of this case. The fact that we are adhering to the baseline area overlay district, as well as taking elements of the mixed-use agricultural, that we are finding a transitional use for a piece that is sandwiched between commercial, industrial, and residential. In terms of traffic, although we've heard that mentioned, it is less traffic than the existing zoning would permit because it is zoned C2 for a large portion of it. We are complying with those overlays that we have heard so much about and we believe are important to the community. We have support from neighboring residents and businesses. And we've had the ability to redesign the plan in order to incorporate so many of the landscaping elements and land use elements from the plans that are important to the South Mountain Village. In terms of the land use district, this is that sweet spot that provides housing, quality housing. We've worked with the community. We've managed to negotiate community benefits that don't exist in other plans that are cognizant and they're recognizing the needs of this community. And we appreciate you following the Planning Commission and staff support of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We will go next to Trent Marchuk, the appellant.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you for your time today. My name is Trent Marchuk, resident homeowner, 3731 East St. Anne Avenue. Over roughly the last year, this project has been a bit dramatic. Parenthetically, the residents and constituents of Phoenix involved in this project respectfully request that the PUD process be reviewed, perhaps referencing this well-documented project for learnings on how neighborhood collaboration can be better encouraged and improved. I come to you today representing the opposition to this case. This includes about 95% of the residents in the contiguous and adjacent 80-acre community to the south, 35 or so acres of business owners to the west, and about 20 plus acres of nearby residents across 40th Street and the other side of 36th Street. Additionally, various members of the community across South Phoenix and into Laveen have been in collective opposition to this development. I was told that things could move fast at the last minute. It's my first time here in front of City Council, and they have. Therefore, given Vice Mayor Garcia's adept proposed compromise, I just want to apologize to any opposition who may be surprised by the neighborhood representatives collectively adjusting to the real-time events. We trust when you hear this out, you will be as understanding as we are. At the direction of Vice Mayor Garcia, a memo has been drafted and subsequently socialized with the neighbors and was reviewed by Mr. Stevenson as well. This memo contains additional stipulations to the PUD. We are appreciative to Vice Mayor Garcia for meeting many times with the neighbors, even when the applicant canceled their participation last minute. This memo shows that the Vice Mayor has listened to the neighbors, and we largely yield to the council members' efforts. We just have one request for adjustment to item number 71 on the general plan amendment, and a request for one modification to a stipulation on item number 72, the rezoning case. The change we request to item number 71 is for GPA SM 120-8 to reflect, quote, 5 to 10 dwelling units per acre traditional lot, BAOD, MUA, rather than 10 to 15 dwelling units per acre, multifamily BAOD, MUA. As the density proposed by the Vice Mayor has shifted the appropriate general plan, has shifted the appropriate general plan category accordingly. We trust that this will be received as an uncontroversial ask aligned to the memo. The members also humbly asked that for item number 72, the proposed stipulation 1B91 be revised down from 166 to 156 total units. This would align with the max total units allowed through conventional zoning / MUA PUD precedents, such that the PUD cannot be said to be inferior to conventional zoning. We know that one of the goals of a PUD is to be superior to conventional zoning. There are three main stakeholders in the PUD process: the applicant, the city, and the neighbors. The stated purpose of the PUD is supposed to be achieved by the applicant, quote, using, quote, a collaborative and comprehensive approach, end quote. Despite the applicant's near total lack of respect for the community process up until about a month ago, the neighbors have remained actively engaged and focused on the merits of the case. We are committed to being pro-development to the benefit of all stakeholders, which is hopefully displayed in our acceptance of Vice Mayor Garcia's proposed compromise. In the interest of protecting our fellow residents and constituents moving forward, we'd like to review some of this neighborhood inclusion since July 2020. The neighbors were literally muted last minute in the initial neighborhood meeting. Our pointed and direct written questions were ignored for over 6 months. About half of those 250 signatures in support of this project are questionable at best, including a purported forgery. The neighbors have been publicly branded with despicable and false accusations. Local nonprofits have said they received promises of $10,000 to support this project in exchange to propagate these false accusations. Consequently, we received threats to our physical safety, and some tragically even received death threats. The neighbors have also been intimidated with the prospect of lawsuits, one as recently as last night. Neighbors have been offered personal bribes to change their position. So although the promise for paid support is technically legal at this time, the Bar Association has said to us that they would like to know if the exchange of monies for nonprofit support is consummated, as they said that would be an ethical violation. We wonder if this is the collaborative approach the city envisioned in the PUD procedures document and that the city wants to encourage. It wasn't until the 3/4 vote protestation petition was secured less than a month ago that the applicant began to finally work with the neighbors. The vice mayor has graciously attempted to bring us together and fairly represent both sides. Despite all the noise cited above, the neighbors put those differences aside to try and find a solution that works for all parties involved based simply on the principles of good planning. Included in these discussions was representation from multiple members of the Village Planning Committee, a member of the Planning Commission, and prominent business people, all acting in their capacities as members of the community. Unfortunately, despite promising the neighbors an opportunity to review the applicant's concession and their full site plan before the City Council vote today, the applicant did not come back to the body of neighbor representatives for review of all proposed changes to the PUD narrative or site plan, and none of those were actually included in the presentation that we just saw. It wasn't until about 2 p.m. today that the neighbors became aware of the memo drafted for stipulations. We appreciate that stipulations have been proposed by the vice mayor that incorporate many of the neighbors' concerns. We tip our collective hats to the vice mayor and to the city plan department for these efforts. According to the PUD procedures, quote, the planned unit development, PUD, is a zoning designation intended to create a built environment superior to that which is accomplished through conventional zoning districts, end quote. Judging this PUD against the objective standards within the city's own documents, the neighbors strongly believe that conventional zoning remains superior to this PUD when the density of this PUD exceeds 156 total units, 156. Therefore, we ask that the GPA change to 5 to 10 dwelling units per acre traditional lot BOD MUA and on stipulation 1B 9.1, we reduce the total units from 166 to 156 total units. We express appreciation to the city planning department for their efforts to help craft the memo. I know a lot went into that. And again, we express great appreciation to Vice Mayor Garcia for the stipulations he has negotiated to find a workable compromise. Lastly, we reemphasize our ask that the entire PUD process be reviewed to identify opportunities that more respectfully include the residents and constituents of Phoenix in the future. Respectfully submitted, Trent Marchuk.
Thank you, Trent. I will turn to our staff who will call members of the public to speak for 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker is Ryan Boyd. Ryan, are you on the line?
Yes, may I proceed?
Yes, please proceed.
Perfect. For the record, my name is Ryan Boyd, 1069 West Taylor Street with the Urban Phoenix Project in support of the GPA. And as mentioned here, we haven't seen the proposed compromise, but at the same time, our main goals and interest in this case are really to increase the density on this location, which is between our arterial streets, across the city street, catty corner from additional apartment complexes. And really what we thought a good way to gently increase the density of the city of Phoenix in an appropriate area. And so with that in mind, we could probably support support the vice mayor's stipulations as well. Our main issue again here is just really touting the fact that density can be good for the city of Phoenix. It means making better use of the limited resources we have, and is really crucial, as noted in the proponent's presentation, to meet the goals we have in the housing plan. If City of Phoenix continues to be a major location for new residents coming in from across the country and across the globe, we need to be building more housing to really make sure that there's places for people to be there, and that requires making good use of land like this. If we're going from a vacant lot to well, here in about 150 units, that's a great start and something that we really support and appreciate on a step to make Phoenix a little bit more urban, a little bit more walkable, and a little bit more welcoming for all. With that, I can take any questions, but thank you so much for your time and in support of the GPA and zoning.
Our next speaker is Beth Hinsey. Beth, are you on the line?
Yes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and Vice Mayor Garcia and council members. I'm Beth Hinsey. I'm one of the property owners of the vacant land at 40th Street and Southern, along with my husband, my two brothers, and my sister. Over the last 29 years, our family has worked to maintain our property by picking up trash, spraying weeds, and repairing the fence. We had various farmers try to farm the property. However, it was either too small for a large farmer to justify moving their equipment or too large for a small farmer to handle. The citrus trees died, not due to lack of water, but due to old age, then had to be removed due to fire hazard. As owners, we work together with the Brown Group, a local Arizona developer, to bring to you the Sanctuary at South Mountain, a single-family residential rental home community which offers, after a great amount of community outreach and compromise, has received both planning and zoning staff approval and planning commission approval. We believe that the Sanctuary at South Mountain will beautify the neighborhood by transforming our vacant, underutilized land into a beautifully designed residential single-family rental home community full of trees and flowers. With 20% open space, our sanctuary families will enjoy spending time in their own private backyards, the dog park, the community pool, or the community garden. Please welcome the Sanctuary at South Mountain, a place to call home. And I also want to address that all of our signatures that we did were valid. There were no forgeries. That is not something that I would do. I'm a mother of 11 children, and I have 8 Eagle Scouts, and I am a very honorable person, and I do not appreciate being questioned in that manner. And I appreciate everyone here, and I want to wish every mother a happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tina Luna. Tina, are you on the line?
Yes, I am on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, I just very quick.
I can't hear her.
Tina, are you still
I
on
also
the line?
cannot. Can you hear me now?
Tina? Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that. Thank you for being patient with me. I just wanted to say that I just want to talk in favor of the project. Housing is really sorely needed in Phoenix and all over the valley, and it looks like it would be a great improvement to that corner. Like somebody said, it's a very mixed area, so I think that this improvement, it really makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to really improve the area. So thank you for letting me speak, and I hope everybody approves the project. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rodney Patterson. Rodney, are you on the line?
Hello?
Rodney, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah. I'm in favor for the housing. I believe it will improve the community around 40th Street and 7th. It will bring more tax dollars to the schools and city. It will give an opportunity for the new generation to remain in the community. It will also generate more business for the small businesses. I believe it's a win-win. It's an all-around win, in my opinion. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Gregory Brownell. Gregory, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
I just want to say thank you to the mayor of the city council for your service, for everything you do. Thank you to the Vice Mayor Garcia. Up until recently, the city planning was doing a PUD without community involvement, which is a kind of a terrible use of a PUD. They were only working with the attorney, and Vice Mayor Garcia came to the rescue. I'm not sure I completely agree with the compromise, but I know that Trent represents the community, and I think the compromise would be better than what we have. I just want to point out to people that think this is bettering the community that this is actually a slum with good landscaping. The houses themselves aren't very much better than shacks. That's how this model works. This is not the typical model that you see where houses are used as rentals. This is a model that probably has a return on investment in 5 years. So it's not what it looks like. It's not going to help us in terms of our housing stock in the South Mountain community. In fact, if anything, it lowers the housing stock. Not affordable housing. This is going to be high rent. Should never have got past zoning. That's a discussion to have later. I just only want to say if they can do that here, they can do it anywhere. And this is money over the village, money over the planning process, money over community well-being, and it's basically a slum with nice landscaping. And if they can do it here, they can do it anywhere. And my biggest fear is they'll be doing it along the light rail, and there's no way to stop it if they can do it here. So again, I want to thank everybody for the work that they do. I especially want to thank Council or Vice Mayor Garcia for two things. One,
Our next speaker is Marcia Bushing. Marcia, are you on the line?
I am, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Gallego and council members. My name is Marcia Bushing. I live at 3319 East Highline Canal Road. And I noted that none of the speakers that spoke in favor of this project indicated that they lived anywhere close to this project. I want to give an extra shout out to Vice Mayor Garcia, who went out of his way to schedule and hold meetings to try and bring all sides of this dispute together. That effort led to a neighborhood coalition, but in my opinion, only token modifications on the part of the applicant. I understand that Vice Mayor Garcia may propose a compromise, and a city staff has drafted a memo dated today in that regard. Hesitantly, I favor the compromise, except for the new proposed stipulation 1B. I would request that it be changed on page 9, item 1, development standards table, and page 27, comparative zoning table, maximum density, replace 11.2 dwelling units per gross acre with 7.9 dwelling units per gross acre for the south parcel and 9.8 dwelling units per gross acre for the north parcel, not to exceed a total of 150 units. That would result in 79 units on the south and 71 units on the north because of the difference in size of the parcel. I am suggesting that the north and parcel and the south parcel of the property be treated differently and the overall density be equal to or less than 150 units. I realize that Phoenix needs housing stock, but this is in a unique MUA designated area. In order to preserve that mixed-use agricultural feel, we need it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Barakat Jebri. Barakat, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor. We would like to thank you for this moment, or I would like to thank you for this moment. I am a homeowner on the south side of the neighborhood. I wanted to say one thing. Yes, we do understand that we don't want this land to be empty. And I think our council member, Vice Mayor, knows this. And I thank him for making the effort to meet with us, to involve the landowner and the firm to come up with a plan. But we were never a part of the plan from the beginning. In 2019, I went to the village planning committee and they were told that they need to go back to the basics and work with the community. When they told them that 85% of the people of the community and the neighborhood agree, that was not the case. And then we came back again this year. We were never a part of the process. We were left out. Vice Mayor brought us back, but we never started on the same way. So what we lack on this, we know that we need more housing. We know everything that we need. However, honesty and decency was out of the question. How the village planning committee were treated, threatened because of the wrong information was wrong. Jason knows it. And even as recent as a few weeks ago, they were telling us it's still evolving, reviewing. We cannot commit. We can't tell you the density. If they could work on 156, we could work with them. We'll be with them, but deny it today. They cannot have as they.
Our next speaker is Blake Peterson. Blake, are you on the line? Blake, are you on the line? It appears we don't have audio for Blake. Our next speaker is Kay Shepard. Kay, are you on the line?
See, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
My name is Kay Shepard. My mailing address is 2324 East Baseline Road. I have lived in this community now for over 40 years and in Phoenix since I was born. I worked very hard over all these years to promote quality and diversity in both commercial and residential development. This, where it may have diversity in housing needs, it certainly doesn't have the quality that we need. And I want to thank Vice Mayor Garcia for all his work on this. It was greatly appreciated. I've worked with a lot of council people over the years, and he has just been one of the best. So again, thank you very much. Since the neighborhood said that they would do the compromise if they went down to 155 units, I would then withdraw my opposition to it, even though it's not really the quality that the area needs, nor the zoning, since there's in excess of 40 acres from 32nd Street to 40th Street on the north side that has multifamily zoning. You take care, and thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Robert Underwood. Robert, are you on the line? Robert, are you on the line? We do not have audio for Robert. Our next speaker
Can you
is
hear me?
Matthew.
This is Robert Underwood. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Yes. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Gallegos and Vice Mayor Garcia and all the council members for your hard work. I know you guys have a tough job and you're not always appreciated, but I do appreciate the job that you do and the difference you make for our city of Phoenix. So thank you for that. I am a local resident. I live at 3834 East St. Catherine Avenue in the Bartlett Herd Ranch Association. I've been there for over 40 years. I'm also a local business owner. In fact, my business is just west of the proposed property at 40th Street and Southern. We own 30 acres and we run a nursery and also my landscape business. And, you know, we've been actively involved in the zoning cases around this area. In fact, I rezoned my area to mixed use agriculture 20 something years ago and followed all the stipulations that the city asked us to do. I am definitely have been opposed to what's going on here as far as the density from the very beginning, and we've stated that emphatically. I thank Vice Mayor Garcia for spending time with the community and listening to our concerns. And I thank him for the compromise that he has proposed. I am willing to work with him and the council if they lower the density to 156. That's what we wanted it to be originally, and I think he's come up with a good proposal. So I think we can make that work. Thank him for working with us, and I appreciate all you guys do. So I would support it based on his recommendations if we can drop that density to 156. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Matthew Aguilar. Matthew, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So my name is Matthew Aguilar, lifelong Southside resident. My support of the project, especially with everything in regards to the CBA, the Community Benefit Agreement, is widely documented throughout this case. So I'm actually here to carry a message for the Honorable Shelley Jackson, school board member down here on the South Side, also South Side resident, could not make it today. So they asked me to carry their message of support for the Community Benefit Agreement and the efforts to implement it by the developer. That's it. I support. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Terry Benelli. Terry, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I'm Terry Benelli, the Executive Director of Local Initiative Support Corporation. We've been engaged for many years with the South Phoenix community through quality of life planning and community capacity building efforts as a community development financial institution. In 2016, we engaged ASU MRED with the Urban Institute to participate in the Turning the Corner project. The results were an anti-gentrification and displacement baseline data report and planning effort. Formerly incarcerated people are 10 times more likely than the general public to become homeless. The revolving door of incarceration is perpetuated when people are not connected to housing services that they need after release. In addition, when people cannot find stable housing, they are more likely to recidivate. A community benefit agreement supports our findings and addresses the housing instability crisis. Securing affordable housing with a market-driven solution for those members of our community who have been intentionally ignored is a proactive action driven by the community that the LISC fully supports. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Zara Gaeta. Zara, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Vera Gallesa. I'm a social worker and I work in South Phoenix. I'm speaking today in favor of this project. As a social worker, I've worked with formerly incarcerated individuals who struggle with obtaining stable housing, and there are not many housing resources available for these individuals. This is largely due to the employment barriers and explicit discrimination formerly incarcerated people experience. Landlords and property owners often discriminate against applicants who are formerly incarcerated. When people are not connected to the housing services they need after release, this increases their chances of recidivism and homelessness. However, studies have found that when formerly incarcerated people received supportive housing services, they were less likely to be rearrested. This is why I support the 40th Street and Southern Avenue project. This project is a coordinated effort between community members and the developer to maximize benefits for the South Phoenix community. The developer has agreed to benefits such as prioritizing housing for South Phoenix residents, waiving application fees for local residents or returning residents, and changing the screening process by ending automatic disqualification for a prior record. We need people and resources in our communities. We need to invest in solutions that strengthen our communities. The 40th Street and Southern Avenue project is a step towards that, and I strongly urge you to vote in support of this project. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Hannah Heyman. Hannah, are you on the line?
The council should support this measure. The developer has gone out of their way to work with the community on this community benefit agreement, which is unheard of, as you all know. And the fact that they were able to work with community to, offer these, new policies, this housing that's going to be available to formerly incarcerated folks is huge. And it's something that all developments should be working towards, because once, somebody is released from the cages that Phoenix police locks them up in, they need places to go to live. And the city has been, working to continue to segregate the city since it has existed. And something like this will go a tiny way towards rectifying that. There still needs much to be done, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. And I think, as you all know, especially Yasmin, who I had spoken to before on this, over a year ago, that formerly incarcerated folks need housing, and we need more dense housing, especially if the city is going to survive with as little water as there is here, and as few resources as there are here. The city needs to be much more dense. And so I hope you all will approve this measure. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Helen Mendizabal. Helen, are you on the line?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Yes. My name is Helen Mendizabal, and I grew up in South Phoenix, and I just wanted to share a little bit about the climate and justice and sustainability aspect of this housing program. This community benefit agreement is only the first step of many to ensure that directly affected peoples are not just involved in the community decision making, but have actual ownership over the decision making process. I believe this creates economic stability, environmental stability, and social stability by investing in community gardening spaces that provide communal spaces for people's personal, emotional, and social well-being, while also providing overarching societal and environmental benefits. I also, considering that formerly redlined areas, especially in South Phoenix, deal with the intersections between food deserts and extreme weather impacts. I think sustainability is the balance of the environment, economic, and social needs of today without compromising the needs for tomorrow. This is pretty broad, but at its core, it's not just a set of topics like water conservation and recycling, but a set of practices for a way of being. I would just really hope that you guys take that into consideration and listen to directly impacted people. And I hope that you guys really approve this. I yield the rest of my time.
Our next speaker is Lola Nisangu. Lola, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I'm a lifelong South Phoenix resident and I was displaced due to the accessibility, the lack of accessibility in housing for myself and my family. I was displaced through incarceration. I grew up in South Phoenix. I went to TG Bar, I went to Percy Julian, and then I went to South Mountain until I got shipped out of South Mountain High School to go to Camelback because it was a more racially balanced school. And I think about how South Phoenix belonged to me. I played in the lots that that were surrounding the area that this development wants to go into when I was a young child. And I think of all these people who are talking about what's good for our community. And I remember wanting to remain always to raise my children in South Phoenix, to be part of the community where I grew up. And when I came home from prison, I wasn't able to come back into that community. And I think about how I'm listening to folks say things like the people who are talking aren't from South Phoenix or aren't living in South Phoenix. And I just want to challenge people to think about how many of us are displaced. I have to live in Levine. I very much would love to move back into South Phoenix, but I don't have access. And I listen to what this developer has been doing, negotiating with community organizations, negotiating with the folks that live in South Phoenix who really are in the margins. The people who don't have the privilege of saying, well, I live in South Phoenix and I'm one of the only people who gets to live here and I get to talk about this, and failing to recognize that, like, those of us who actually don't live in South Phoenix, we still have a right to talk about it, because I want to live in South Phoenix and I can't. So this is the community I was raised in. I really urge City Council to please listen to us as we tell you this is what we want. This is how the community benefits is by allowing the people who've lived there to remain there, not to continue to push people out of communities. And I think that that this community benefits agreement I've never heard anything like it. And so I urge you to look at it, read it, see what they're willing.
Here.
Yes,
May I ask a question of Lola?
please do.
Lola, as a former incarcerated person, can you talk a little bit more to the community benefits agreement and why it's important to you personally?
Yeah, the community benefits agreement actually speaks to directly impacted formerly incarcerated people by suggesting that because one of the main reasons I can't live in South Phoenix is because I can't pass a background check. I was convicted in 2003, so you can imagine how long ago that was. And even though property management companies say over and over, oh, we won't run your back, or we'll run your background, but we won't consider it, they always do. And this community benefit agreement actually says that people will not be disqualified based on their background checks, and that's a huge win for people like me, because I struggle. I have to rent from private owners who will listen to my story, and when you have these large developers, or you have like property management companies who don't have that experience and don't care, we get kicked out. So this provision being made for us makes this housing accessible. And another thing that they were willing to do, and I saw our community who are directly impacted folks really light up at the idea, is that they were offering to offset the housing expenses to 50% for people who are housing unstable. And so making a commitment to share 3 of the homes that there will be in their development at a lower rate to make it accessible to the community is huge. And that being formerly incarcerated could qualify you makes such a difference. I heard a social worker talking just earlier saying that how housing instability is so prevalent among those of us who are formerly incarcerated, and recidivism rates are directly tied to it. This is huge. This is a huge win for our community.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Venable. Elizabeth, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, basically what I wanted to say is I'm currently standing in federally supported housing, and basically this project, although it has a stronger component, social justice component, it seems similar to projects which are funded through the federal government, and the opposition arguments are roughly the same. And the opposition arguments seem similar also to oppositions I've seen domestic violence shelter places get, and I'm not equating the two, but there is a need for justice in the community. I support this project. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anthony Ray. Anthony, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak my opinion. I do oppose this project, but I do support the proposal presented by the Vice Mayor, with the one exception that we respectfully request a maximum of 156 units. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Twana Ray. Twana, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the mayor and the vice mayor and the city council for the opportunity to speak this evening. I would like to say thank you to the vice mayor. He participated in multiple meetings between the community and the applicant within the last several months. After this was denied at the village planning committee, he tried to help put something together. As Trent alluded to, or not alluded to, as he stated earlier, the applicant did not attempt to cooperate at all with the neighborhood until the planning commission, um, not even until the planning commission, was actually after that when the 3/4 petition was approved. I do want to speak to the fact that people keep making the statement as if this is an affordable housing project. It is not. It is not that at all. This is a money-making project for the developer, plain and simple. For the developer and the owner. It does not benefit the community at all. The proposal that Vice Mayor has presented does help the community, but we are asking that you would reduce that amount to 156 because we are looking to keep the MUA intact, and we appreciate you doing that. There's 3 total units that the applicant offered up for formerly incarcerated people, single parents, and first responders at 50% grade. These rentals, if created, would be going rate. That is not affordable housing. So the formerly incarcerated and all these other individuals would still be at a disadvantage, and you still would not have access to those rentals. So again, thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, City Council. We ask that you would support Councilman or Vice Mayor Garcia's proposal, with the exception that you will put 156 maximum units on that property. We worked very hard to do that. Thank you so much.
Mayor, Twana was our final speaker for these items. Thank you.
I will close the public hearing and turn to Vice Mayor Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for everyone who spoke and for your comments. I do want to highlight that this PUD exceeds some of the standards of the overlay, that many of the changes that we've put into the memo that been shifted from the initial application. We've had a lot of conversations with community surrounding this project, and you heard the variety of comments we've had today. Super thankful for all those conversations. Honestly, being here for over a year and a half, I learned a lot through this case. There's an expectation in the general plan of 5% open space. This product is going to have 20% now. We were able to increase the setbacks. So part of the reduction of density, make sure that the neighbors to the south and Mr. Underwood to the west, or the folks to the west, do have greater setbacks. We've added open fencing. We'd also asked the applicant to decrease the height of the project and move the dog park, community garden, or any of the projects that might disturb the surrounding neighborhood, specifically the neighborhood to the south, to be moved in the inner part of the property, or the central part of the property. While in the conversations, many of y'all have expressed the willingness to work out and reach a compromise. I want to thank you all for that intention and the conversation we had. I really can't say much more about the neighbors, the willingness. I do also want to applaud the developers and the conversations with the CVA, and hearing some of those stories of how that's going to impact folks. I think also kind of help this come along. And I guess I'm gonna be making one motion first, and I would say to the neighbors, and I know there's two asks. I think on item 71, I'm with you all on shifting that. On item 72, I don't think it's fair to bring it down an extra 10 units. I know that's what the ask is. The original was over 66, 210 units, and I think I hope that, speaking to the developer, we will continue to have conversations as this moves forward, to make sure that everyone's being good neighbors with each other. And so with that, I want to, on item 71, motion to deny as filed and approve the MOU residential 5-10 dwelling units per acre.
Again. Vice Mayor, I would just add and adopt the related resolution with that.
And adopt the related resolution, sorry.
Any council member comments? Roll call.
Ansari,
Yes.
DeCiccio,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor, Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes. Yes.
I apologize, Waring,
Yes.
thank you. Garcia,
Yes.
Gallego,
Yes.
passes 8-0.
We next move to item 72, the companion item. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve per the Planning and Development Director memo dated May 5th, 2021, and adopt the related ordinance.
Again.
Any council member comments? Roll call.
Ansari,
Yes.
DeCiccio,
Yes.
Guardado,
Mayor, can I explain my vote?
Please do.
So, yeah, so I just want to thank Vice Mayor Garcia and Ellen and the neighbors and the developer and everyone that came together for a compromise. I know that this is something that Vice Mayor Garcia has been working on for a very long time. So I can see your organizing skills coming out and doing some great work with everyone here together. And I think this is how developments should really run, where everyone comes to the table and there's compromise and we're able to listen to everyone and have good outcomes. So I'm going to be voting yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Garcia, Gallego.
I wanted to explain my vote. I want to thank folks who participated in this process and who also commented on this process. We want to be able to have respectful dialogue where people can feel safe participating and sharing their opinions, and we will always look to continuously improve our process. In this case, I will vote aye.
Passes 8-0.
That is our final agendized item for today. We will next move to citizen comments.
Okay, wait, did we just win? Holy crap, y'all, Joe. They gave Carlos credit, and we all know that Carlos is not the one who organized the shit out of this. This was not Carlos's baby. So they can suck it all day. Please forgive my language. we all know that I need everybody that can to put up an emoji, sprinkle fingers, hearts, whatever they can for all the hard work and the brainchild of Joe Latios and the people who sat in that VPC and were abused and being exposed to all that horse shit. I just want to put that out there for y'all. So I'm giving you my sprinkle fingers and my hearts. Fatima, would you like to, Joe, can you do me a favor and unpack all of that compromising and all of that? I don't know if that's important now, and if it's not, then please forgive the question, but can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, we didn't get to the like coded language of development, right? In the way that it's right, the system isn't broken, it's designed that way. And the way that development is designed is also to be exclusionary. And density is a primary way, it's an old way, right? Back to like the beginning of racialized zoning, to exclude, right? To keep people out. And the whole idea is that, you know, if you want to keep poorer families who can only afford to live in smaller units, you would say, you know, we could only allow for a certain level of density, right? We have to have large lots. That's the density that is appropriate for our part of town, versus, you know, some other place. Go ahead and move that level of density over there, right? And it's very similar to the way segregation happened in terms of what Matt was talking about earlier, right? Using development rules to control where bodies and specific kinds of bodies can be. And so density is an old tale. And so a lot of the compromise that you saw were from large property owners asking, right? We want less density, right? And that's part of that coded language. And what you saw, right, was property owners holding to that, and saying, you know, what we demand some type of compromise to have less density. There was very little attention given to the community benefits agreement, right? That's part of what we talk about a lot, right? If density is a conversation that's just about property, then community benefits is a conversation about people, right? It doesn't matter if you own property, right? If you own a large ranch-style home, right? There's important conversations about what development and how we develop land should be considering, and it's bigger than just property considerations. And so as you can hear, right, like there was another call to have the developer go less on their density. If they would have gone less, right, to 156, what that would mean is it would actually increase the cost of all of these units, because that's how you would have to circumvent to go less dense, right? So it would in effect make this property even more affordable. And that's not the direction we're trying to go in, right? We're trying to find that healthy compromise that allows everyone to be seen. And so I'm super excited about what happened. But yeah, we won that. And it is in large part to the continued pressure that a lot of folks here and in the social media world put to make sure that this was heard and that District 8 took this seriously. We should just put this out there, right? Like there is an old practice that council has, right? It's another development practice that's based on exclusion and white supremacy. And the development practice of council is to just defer to the council member whose district the development resides in. It's an old practice. But what it means is that the most important person is the council member. And it's kind of one of these things, right? You stay out of my development business, I'll stay out of yours, which is really difficult when we're all together in this. Our water crisis is everybody's issue. Our housing crisis is everybody's issue. And so we just can't bifurcate, right? Like, okay, well, your development, you do what you want there, we'll do what we want here. And there's no conversation. And so that's what happened, right? So everyone just would defer to District 8's vote. It's why Carlos kind of took center stage. And up until, you know, a couple of days ago, we had no conversation with Carlos about this project and about whether he would support this project. And so, you know, it was, again, through the effort that we were able to make sure that we got this all the way through. So I'll stop there, and Zoraida or if folks have any other questions, if you want to mention anything else.
I just want a clarification, Joe. So did Carlos, because that's a lot of mambo jambo talking, like I didn't get it. Did they close it with agreeing to do 156 or more?
No, they did go down to 160 something.
Okay. So
and what the opposition was asking for was 150 something. I can't remember.
Okay.
And so Carlos approved the 160 something project.
Okay.
160 something units of housing. That's the density.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so this is a big win for, again, all the South Mountain VPC members that have been fighting for this on the inside, and for those of us that have been there to support them on the outside and hold them up. And when they jumped out of the pool, cover them with the towel of love because they just got wet by all that nasty slime. So I really, it's such a huge congratulations to all of us that have been involved in that fight, and particularly the ones that have been facing the hardest music. So I'm gonna pass the stage. I'm gonna pass the mic. Who am I, Beyonce tonight? I'm gonna pass it to Fatima so we can talk a little bit about POPI.
Yeah, so I saw Fatima Mohammed posted in the Zoom chat what happens from here. So with next steps, actually, maybe Joe and I can both talk about it. There's a displacement report that we're working on, which is supposed to help us create a narrative shift. So we're working on this report because we want to make visible the pattern of displacement, and we don't really have that on record. And we talk about these things all the time on the Village Planning Committee, but no one believes us. They think we're just like saying things out of nowhere. So what we're planning to do is collect data with community members, and so we're on the step of doing focus groups right now. So we have a form for people who are doing mutual aid to fill out. And I can post that here. The dates are May 27th, June 3rd, and June 10th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. This is for you to be involved in collecting data. Yeah, and is there anything you wanted to add to that, Joe?
I would just say, this is the first community benefit agreement, that we were able to get passed in this project. But the goal, right, is that every development considers a community benefit agreement. And so we want to continue to build on that and create benefits that speak back to the various ways that people are getting displaced, especially in South Phoenix. We know that that's going to continue to happen. It's already happening, right? We know it's going to continue to happen. It's going to go faster, especially with light rail and the development around the 202 freeway expansion. And so part of what this report is and these next 3 dates is to really invite people who are working on the front lines of different communities who are being displaced, whether it's their food source or their adequate housing or their sense of safety because of criminalization and incarceration, right? We want to make sure that we engage folks in the ways that happens. And that's part of the displacement report and these next 3 dates that Fatima put out there. And so again, if that's you, if you are working on one of those front lines of mutual aid, please fill out the form. We would love to have you there. We have a number of really awesome consultants that do this work all the time that are going to be collecting the data and the stories and putting this report together. And so we're hoping you can participate in that. And we're hoping that also gets to be a stepping stone in our ability to continue to name future benefits that other developments can continue to adopt. And so, folks that are on the village planning committees, we can continue to engage the conversation, encourage developers to engage with all of you leaders, even more folks in future conversations. And so we're hoping that that's the kind of partnership that we can have. And so if that's you, we would love to invite you to that table and kind of build out, right, this new opportunity to have a different relationship to development that goes beyond property and really centers people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joe. And like you said, it's very important before we go into building a platform and a coalition for community benefit agreements, like future ones, we need to work together and build a mutual understanding of what is displacement. And then afterwards, we can work together on that coalition. Yeah, so we put the form in the chat, and now we could just lead. I'll pass it to Ria for the call to actions for MassLib.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fatima. And thank you everyone for being here today. You all know there's a lot of things going on. So it's great to like be here at kind of the end of this, and then invite you all again to join us for another really important event that's going to be happening tomorrow, and our first in-person event actually since COVID started. So we're going to be doing a in-person rally and petition drop for we had a petition out calling for Alistair Dell and the Maricopa County Attorney's Office to drop all charges with prejudice against the protesters who were politically prosecuted by their office since the uprising last summer. And we reached like over 5,285 signatures on that. And so we want to kind of really take this time to center the people who've been directly impacted for all these months by these false charges, and take this time to basically publicly talk about our demands, and also really show up in solidarity with, again, the people who've faced these these political prosecutions. So Zara put in the Drop the Charges MCO rally and petition drop Facebook event page, so you can like that. You don't really have to register or anything, right? So you can find out the information about where we're going to meet, what time it is. It's at 12:45 p.m. tomorrow at the Central Court building. And yeah, if you need support getting there, we can provide that. Just email us. The information's all there. And yeah, just it'll be great. We'd really love to see a lot of you finally in person, or like for the first time in person. So, and yeah, and we're following all like COVID-19 precautions, so please do wear a mask. And yeah, thank you. I'll pass it back to someone. Zoraida?
Yeah. Oh, you're on mute, Zoraida.
Fatima, are we ready for detox?
Yeah. Let's detox.
All right, so,
Oh, I just said let's detox.
Okay, cool. So our challenge to you today is, we've had a few minutes to kind of talk about how we use circles and lines to make illustrations. So my challenge is for you to get your paper and your colors or marker, whatever, or pencil or whatever you have, and make us an illustration with circles and lines about how you feel about what happened today. And I'm going to share my screen again and give you all one song, which is about 3 minutes worth of time, to come up with something. Now remember, this is not art, it's not a competition, it's just literally trying to take your ideas and putting them on a piece of paper with a simple marker. So don't be intimidated. I'm gonna do one also. I'm gonna share my screen, and if someone is having a hard time kind of with a word or shape, just drop it in the chat and I'll share on screen how I would do it if that helps you out. So Fatima, if you would play a song, and I'm gonna work on this arduous process of sharing my screen for my iPad, so give me 1 sec.
Fatima, we should.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say we should watch the music on the Facebook Live.
Okay, then I won't play any music then.
Okay, so y'all just sing to yourselves your favorite song. Sing to yourselves your favorite song, kind of like when you do Staying Alive, when you do CPR, and I'm still gonna try to share my screen. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, so remember, circles can turn into heads. Rectangles can be bodies. You can actually join hands with another shape by doing the same thing. And if you have the ability to change color, you can easily have people holding love together. It's pretty simple. Well, I'm gonna do this one for you, friend.
Zoraida, can you do one for collaboration?
I was just doing that. That's so funny that you say that. I can't seem to do a straight line today. Remember, I told you words are also images. I don't like that. And so, yeah, if you had more time, you can get more clever with it. But even see just a few straight lines and a few words makes collaboration, holding up this beautiful work that everyone has been doing. You could easily add more people in. How are y'all doing? Matt, do you want to share yours? Did you make one? I can see face. I'm only calling on people I can see.
I can go because I feel like people will not be scared to go after me. So mine is very basic, but I used what we learned today and you know, leading up to this exercise. Can you see it?
Yes.
So that's just a stick person like with their hands on their hips and a banner that says "duh." I think you know, we talk about how sometimes it seems like city council members are like the least informed in the room, and a lot of the things we talk about or we're making visible in our conversations are like we know these things, like let's get a move on, come on, like let's go. So while I am very elated and excited about this big community win, like there is a part of me that's just like, yo, like why did we have to do all this? Like this is just like, this is an easy yes for everybody involved. So I got the duh with my hands on my hips.
And the attitude foot. I saw the attitude foot.
Oh, you saw? Oh, see, look, I learned that from you. I learned that from you.
I saw the attitude foot. I don't know what happened to my, but I can get back to that. Thank you, Matt, for being brave to be the first one to share.
Yeah,
anyone else?
I can go. Go, Patricia.
Okay, I want to go because I copied Zoraida and I'm super excited about my new drawing skills. So.
Oh, yay. It's not drawing, it's illustration. Oh, yes, running out of time. Back it up a little, Patricia.
So I put MLAZ plus community equals love and celebration because we won.
Yes.
And then I drew white supremacy is running out of time, but that was harder than I thought. Community over council.
Yes.
And, ooh, my writing. People over property.
Nice. Yay, Patricia, that's beautiful.
You're kind. Thank you for the art lesson.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Anyone? Oh, that's so cool, y'all. Anyone else want to go?
I'll go. I wish I had these sweet doodle skills when I was still teaching. I drew people, and they're lifting up housing and love, and these little lines are confetti because we're always partying and having fun.
Yay, that's amazing. Ronnie, that's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, this is beautiful. Miss Roslyn, did you do one?
No, I didn't. I'm just admiring.
Womp, womp. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Helen, did anyone else do one? I'm just looking at faces that are visible to me immediately.
I have mine. Mine's pretty big. I actually had like flashbacks, Zoraida, because I remember being in Guatemala in kindergarten, and like it was literally homework to do like little circles and little lines like that. So I remember that. But I just did two. I did Sal said yes, a little banner, and people over property, or power to the people, power to the people.
I love it.
My little banners.
You made the banners. Here's a hint about the banners. If you write the words out first and outline them second, then you can fit it easily and not have to squish your words together. So good job. That's beautiful. I like the waving flag. That was super cool. Anyone else?
I can go.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Okay. So here's my, I don't know, can you see it? So is there, okay. So let's see. Okay. So here is the sort of light in the seed that everybody has been working on, and mass liberation is. So that's the yellow piece, and it's born out of love, and it's growing and growing and growing, and then there's this new little sprout of life and this new beginning in this sort of earth and planting and seed and sort of this really beautiful piece that's happening, and that's where I'm at.
Oh, that is amazing. I love the growing with the spiral. I love the idea that the spiral is growth and it leads to like sprouting even more growth. That is dope. Yeah. That's fire. Thank you. Yeah. Did anyone else participate? Would like to practice or like to share? Oh, Fatima said that. Oh, Alicia, you're on mute. Are you double muted somehow? Let me see if I can unmute you. Oh, there you go. We can't hear you.
Show us your pick anyway and let us interpret it.
I see flowers. Oh, very colorful flowers. I see leaves and growth. Oh, I wish I could scroll to see better. I have horrible eyes anyway. So is that like the sprouts of success coming from? I love the circles of grass. Can you drop it in the chat? I do see flowers. I see growth. I see beauty. I'm starting to feel like the scent of fresh flowers.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry. So it's like Vanessa's, kind of similar, but the little red dots down below represented like the views of all the rich homeowners, and the bigger circles and big leaves are us in relative importance. So yeah, they're still there, but we're growing.
Very cool. Gosh, y'all are amazing. This was great. Does anyone else want to share? Because we can close this part out. Anyone else on here? Lola, did you do one by chance? Or Fadi?
I couldn't because I'm losing a protest that's happening in my living room right now between me and my 8-year-old.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I support or not that loss of yours, Lola, but please handle that because there's nothing more to it.
Thank you. No, I already lost. It's already done. I already lost. I fell down on it. He wins. And so, yeah, we'll all live to fight another day, though.
I guess we can't win them all, right? All right.
Not against a 3-year-old. No.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, I thank y'all so much. I really wish we had some other activities planned that we could help you unpack some coded language that maybe we'll get to another day. But this was beautiful. I loved seeing all of your illustrations, and hopefully we could do more of this in the near future. And y'all are pretty dope. Fatima, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to Miss Rosalind to close this out with gratitude.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, the gratitude is so huge. And we have, if you think about how many of these meetings we have been in, and we did not come out feeling so good, and we had to breathe, we had to go away feeling really burdened. And this right here is a different feel, but it's because each special you, your support showed up in the form of the flowing art that Zoraida shared with us and taught us. And that's just how this thing works. Our action becomes art. And I guarantee you, opposition is sitting there thinking, what just happened? But it was a community that collectively moved together. And I am so grateful to each of you. I just want to extend a big thank you to you for sacrificing your time this evening and really coming into this space with attentiveness and holding each other's hands. We held each other tonight in a very different way, and it felt really good. And I want to thank you for your virtual hold, and thank you for your participation in the discussions. And we just thank you for showing up like you do, and for all those upcoming events and all of the events that led up to this win. It is so overwhelming. It is so exciting. And I'm quite humbled to be the person to close us out with such amazing, amazing gratitude. We win. The fight continues to be fixed. Good night to all. Good night to all. The fight is fixed.
The fight continues to be fixed, and our actions are art, are literally the quotes of the day. So thank you for your wisdom and sage, like.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes, that art was amazing. I love the art. What a story it tells. And now you can go away and have a different discussion with your peeps.